I think that in the interest of the Conservative Party, Rishi Sunak clearly needs to take action, because I think this is something that does cut through with the public. I didn't think this about Dominic Raab or Gavin Williamson. These seem like big issues.
And the Raab inquiry is still continuing, of course, we ought to add.
Indeed, yeah. But these are big things in Westminster, but sometimes felt perhaps like a little bit like journalists, perhaps a little too addicted to the chaos of last year than things that were actually making a big impact on the public. This is very different. It gets at that sense of unfairness. People are going through a cost of living squeeze. They're seeing their taxes in real terms increase. This is a figure that is going to be central to the next election as chairman of the Conservative Party. So I don't really see how this is sustainable. I think the longer this goes on, the stronger Keir Starmer looks and the weaker Rishi Sunak looks.
Yeah, I mean, that's, politically it's a gift to the opposition, of course, but it's an interesting point, of course. It's the reverberation of, hold on, here's, the head of the Tory party, who it seems did not pay £4.8 billion in tax when it was due. And as you say, when people are struggling to heat or eat, that, does not go down well with an electorate, does it?
No. And the interesting thing, you imagine that line every day in a general election campaign. It's just not tenable. And it's not going to be tenable in a week or 2 weeks, just as it wasn't on Sunday or over the weekend. So, and the other thing is that Labour hasn't necessarily put the boot in too much on this yet. So we're also going to see their attacks ramp up over the coming days.
Yeah. Why have they done that? Is it because it's perhaps more effective to see the Tories, I know it's a horrible phrase, but swing in the wind as a result of this and just let them do the damage to themselves, if you like?
Yeah, it could well be that. I will always say let's not give Labour too much benefit of the doubt, only because sometimes their strategic responses to things have also been a bit slow. But yeah, look, I think there's no doubt that this is going to be a big feature of PMQs and also, the spotlight shining on Rishi Sunak over the coming days. It's a possible opportunity for Rishi Sunak. I think that's what's frustrating from a Conservative point of view, is that, if Rishi Sunak sort of stood up, took action, looked strong, he's still introducing himself to the public.
Right. What about Caroline Nokes's point that if he'd recused himself, actually stood down for the time being while this was sorted out, it could actually have bought perhaps Rishi Sunak more time? The very fact that he's still in post as Tory party chairman and the questions being asked, that's what's really diverting attention from everything else.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think a lot of the public will be looking at this that have actually seen Rishi Sunak's speech on his 5 promises and quite liked it earlier in the month. And they'll now be seeing this and thinking, well, are we just back to the Boris days now of infighting and scandal? Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And you have seen ministers in the past admit they've got things wrong, step down and then return to the top table. It's increasingly hard to see how this doesn't end in a resignation that's long-lasting.
And when does it break? When is the decision made? And we've seen it before. When you become the story rather than actually trying to literally govern the country, then it's over, isn't it?
Yeah, so look, Nadhim Zahawi may make that decision himself because he will not want to be in the limelight and he'll realise that it's becoming a distraction. It could be that Rishi Sunak takes action before the inquiry closes, or he speeds that inquiry up to take action.
Because whatever recommendation or whatever the inquiry finds, it's still in the Prime Minister's gift as to what happens afterwards, isn't it? We ought to add that.
Yeah, and people people have said, well, look, we need to follow process here. And I think we have to understand that line from Number 10. And Rishi Sunak is a process man. He is arguably doing things in the right way. The problem is that sometimes the politics has to take over, and the political reality of the situation is the longer this goes on, the worse it is for the Prime Minister. Right.